Howdy Dabblers, it's almost New Year's, which means you're probably thinking about what you're going to be drinking during your big New Year's Eve toast. For a lot of folks, that's champagne, that's traditional, but what if I told you that there was a beverage that was even more traditional to drink on New Year's than champagne? It's cider, I'm gonna tell you about it, and we're gonna drink this now. So back in medieval England, the pagans celebrated their New Year's in early to mid-January. They called it Twelfth Night, and rather than celebrating with a champagne toast, they would celebrate with a cider toast, talking about things that they hope would happen in the new year, celebrating people that passed or things to remember from the previous year, and they called this process of toasting and celebrating wassailing. By the way, I'm getting all this old school cider knowledge from Gabe Cook's book, Ciderology. Totally recommend reading that if you have some time. So ever since I learned a lot more about European and American cider from my coworker Brian right here in the Dabbler bar, by the way, check out that video on our YouTube channel, I've really come to enjoy cider for celebration purposes, especially around the holiday season. Number 12's Legacy Cider is a perfect cider for celebrating. This particular edition of the cider is a little different than the last time that we reviewed it. Rather than being bright, fruity, champagne-y, dry, this one's gonna be a lot more of that old school English cider style, maybe even something close to what the pagans themselves were drinking. It's tannic, it's a little more bitter, it's got some oaky complexity to it. It's really good. So I gotta go to my cheat sheet here to remember the exact varietals of apple that number 12 used in this cider. It's Golden Russet, Wixen Crab, Benet Rouge, and Michelin, which is a really cool combination from what I understand of old school European cider apples, and they lend this really unique tannic, dry mouth, vinous quality to this cider. It almost reminds me a little bit of some of that tang, dry mouth that you would get on a particularly tart, maybe a Brett sour or something like that. It's got a little bit of that character, but it's also more refreshing and definitely less tart than that. One of the reasons that I've enjoyed substituting cider for champagne, especially around holiday gatherings, especially with beer people, is that some people perceive champagne to be just a little too sweet for their taste. I'm one of those people. Now, there's not saying that all champagnes are too sweet or anything like that, but if you're the kind of person or you're hanging out with the kind of people that tend to be turned off by that quality, you're definitely not gonna get a ton of sweetness from this. While I think this is maybe technically a semi-dry or semi-sweet cider, it does not have any of the sweetness that you would think of from a UK cider like a Strongbow or something like that. When you're looking for a special beverage for your New Year's party, you're thinking of something that pairs well with a wide variety of foods. And I love a dry, crisp cider for that. It's gonna give you the ability to cut through sweetness on New Year's Eve desserts like a cheesecake, or just simply refresh your palate while you're sampling through multiple canapés, because we're classy like that on New Year's. Number 12 is releasing Legacy every year, and they're doing a slightly different profile each time. So if you enjoyed the champagne-y qualities of the original Legacy, you're still gonna find some of those champagne-y qualities in this version of Legacy, but the 2021 holiday editions got a little bit more of that English cider complexity. So if you're a fan of that style of cider, this one's gonna be even more up your alley. Happy New Year's. We hope you enjoy a year of watching us make these silly little videos in the Dabbler bar. As the pagans would have said back in the medieval England days, wassail, or to good health. Cheers.